So last night I went to see I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is a new Legacy sequel. And with Legacy sequels, I always have like a strange, I like them, but then I'm just like, I don't think we need them. But at the same time, I think we need them because I feel like in today's society and culture, we don't really have a lot of things or shows or any of that that really take us back into memory lane and remind us where we came from, you know? And I'm not trying to make it too deep in all of that by saying like, I Know What You Did Last Summer is something that needs to be remembered, but I do think at the same time it is something to be remembered, especially with the future of slashers. And although it wasn't as revolutionary, I say, as Scream, I still think it had a essence that still carries on and lingers today. And I can talk more about that in another video. This is my review for it. But I think that this is great to do legacy sequels for that reason, to remind a younger generation that, hey, this actually came out before, but now we're doing it for this generation. I think that's always great to see as well. But with I Know What You Did Last Summer, I was like, okay, we're getting legacy sequel again. We have a pretty good cast, honestly. Madeline Klein, Tyreek Withers, Chase Sweet Wonders, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. Let me see what you're gonna give us. And at the end of the day, I was just like, it didn't give. But let's talk about it. So this film basically is the same sort of run of the gun type of I Know What You Did Last Summer. A group of 5 young adults go out to sort of have a good time on the 4th of July. It ends up in tragedy for a stranger. A year later, those events come back to haunt them. That's basically what you have here. The same premise you saw in the 97 film is back again, but now you have the 97 cast, of course, that includes Jennifer Love Hewitt, who plays Julie, and also Freddie Prinze Jr. playing Ray, returning here into Southport. And things haven't really changed from 97 that much, although you have new trends, new technology, and things like that. The core of the town's still the same. Nobody believes them of what's going on, and nobody wants to try and start to believe. And so I like that those themes are sort of present here. There's some very interesting, I would say, also like thoughts here in the film about our society today and believability of things, and also with wanting to keep the status quo at the expense of people's lives. And I think we see that in our society a lot more, especially this year. And I really do love when it's exploring that side, but then it decides to abandon that completely and go in different directions. My biggest critique with the film, it feels like a mindless and misdirected film because there's a lot here that is happening with the horrors and things like that, and it tries to go into a more, I would say, serious note, which isn't bad. I will tell you, if it goes in that serious note, I'm okay with it, which it does, I feel like, in the first like 5 to 20 minutes. But then it tries to go into sillier moments, which I like the most of the film. I like when the film is not taking itself seriously at all and is feeling more not spoofy or parody-ish, but more like self-aware-ish in a way, but not really to the point where it's like making fun of itself either. Like it's just right, you know? But the film goes back and forth between those two tones, which I think is where it starts to lose me. And it almost feels like, okay, pick like which lane you want to be in, because if you're going with a serious route, I really enjoy what you were doing in the first like 30 minutes of this film. But if you want to go into that silly route, which you were doing like halfway through the film, then let's go in that all the way up until the end. And I think that's what the movie really lacks, is a direction of what it wants to do. I think the actors here do a good enough job of what they're given, and I think that this movie really deep down has a much better movie that was really there. But I feel like there was a lot of things that happened maybe with rewrites, with editing and things like that, and I don't want to blame any particular person in this, because I know with a studio movie there's a lot of hands in the pots at times, especially with a franchise like this, where by the end they are really saying, hey, we want to continue doing this, maybe if you guys come and see it. And I'll talk more about that in my spoiler talk. Overall, though, I think that the look of the film is great. It looks good, honestly. This is a film that looks and has some astonishing shots throughout. I think that Tyreek Withers here, who is one of the main characters, is truly the MVP. And I think that the tone he carries throughout the film and his delivery, I think that should have been for every character here from beginning to end. And I think we would have had a much better film, in my opinion. Now, I've seen so many people love this film as well, and that's okay. I think this is a movie that if you're a diehard I Know What You Did Last Summer fan, or those slashers from the 90s, you're definitely going to love this one. But I myself, I think that they did a much better job with Scream 5 at giving it that legacy boost of sorts, whereas opposed to here, I feel like they were relying a lot on nostalgia. And it's funny because they talk about nostalgia in this film and how it can be bad as well, which I think is a thing that really was kind of surprising for the movie to do, especially when that line is delivered. I feel at that point it was kind of like, are you making fun of this movie itself? Because this is what this movie did. But overall, I'm still like thinking about it, processing it. So with all of that being said, who would I really recommend this movie to? Well, I'll tell you, I really did like this movie for the most part. But for the most part, I also thought it had some problems here and there, and some of the things were a little bit baffling. And I'm somebody who suspends disbelief. I'll tell you that from beginning to end. I am imploring you to always do that with movies. This movie doesn't exist in our universe. It's not a real life. It's not a documentary. There is a suspension of disbelief that needs to happen with every single movie, I think. But here, some of the things that happened, I was just like, ugh, okay, whatever, just take me there. And that's mostly because of execution, because I think you can really make audiences believe anything, no matter how illogical or whatever it is. If you think outside of the film it is, you can still be like, well, but the filmmaker took me there, or the editor, or the writer, or whoever was working on this film. They took me to that level where I was like, I'll let that pass. I'll excuse it. It's fine. It works in the universe. But here, there was moments where I was just like, eesh. So I think if you are a diehard I Know What You Did Last Summer fan, I think you're truly, truly gonna love this one. Stay for the after credits. There is an after credits here. I think if you were a little bit like, I just want to watch something like a slasher and just see like some people get into it with a killer and have some funny one-liners here and there, you'll be good with this one. If you're expecting a legacy sequel like Scream 5, or anything of that nature, then you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed, because it does try to do that, but it doesn't get there. And it really is kind of at points like a little bit like you want to turn away, just how like you just were like, yeah, that just didn't land. I think how you were like expecting it to land. But I'm curious to see what they go for with in the future. I don't know if this is the way to go, and I'm curious to see how the box office treats this movie. It wasn't much to make it. It was like $18 million budget wise. So if it at least makes over 60, I think we definitely see that sequel that they're planning with that post credit scene happen. But we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on it. I'm going to get into spoilers about it in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you follow us for all the things you love. We'll be watching Editing tonight, and I will give you my full reaction on that as well. So stay tuned for that. But I Know What You Did Last Summer. Let me know what you thought about it down below, and if you also feel the same way as me, or if you loved it, let me know as well, because I've been seeing people love it and people I know as well, and that's totally fine. It just didn't land for me, and I'm very forgiving with movies, so I was kind of like a little bit like, huh, I guess it just didn't really work for me. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your opinions on it. Make sure you follow us for all the things you love. We also have Sorry Baby opening up in some theaters this weekend and also next week, so expect a review from me pretty soon, probably today, and Eddington as well. And we'll get into spoiler talks for all of these movies as well throughout the weekend. So very excited to talk more movies with you. Make sure you follow us wherever you can on social medias, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever you can find us. Our website, www.culturelixir.com, as well, is the best place for all of the things happening around you. And I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.